Welcome, everybody, to another one of the final 3 Wine and Comics Pairing Show live streams. And we have the ultimate returning guest with us again today. But of course, we got to play our opening. You're only going to get it a couple more times before it's gone for good. So here we go. All right, here we are, and with us again today, a 5-timer at this point, and no one even comes close. Travis Gibb, of course, was sort of hot on his heels until this moment, with 3 times. And after tomorrow, JL Draco and Lindsay G will also be 3 times.
That's
and
right.
After next week, Stephen Prince will also be 3 times. So we have a 3-way tie for silver medal, but no one is even going to be close to making 5 times. Richard Fairgray, Glutton for Punishment, coming back again. Here we are. And what are we here to talk about?
If those chuckle fucks want to get all tied up in a 3-way, they're welcome to it. I'm a 5-timer. I am the champion.
That's right.
I came here to play and I came here to win. I didn't know it was a competition when I first signed up.
And now that you do,
we turned it into one right quick. He was the moment he was like, I'm like, oh, you're our first. Were you our first second guest? No. Who was our first repeat guest?
Matador. Was it Matador?
No, I don't think so. He took a while to come back.
Did he?
I think I was.
You know what? It might have been Frank Martin. I think because we did
silently. I will say, this is going to be a tough. Have you guys frozen? If I lost you?
We can hear you.
You're frozen.
Yeah, you're frozen.
But no, we're not frozen to me. Okay, let's try the trick of removing you and bringing you back.
No, it's all working again.
Oh,
now.
you're back. You're back.
Yeah, everything's working again now. But like, you'll notice. We had technical issues last time. The first time it's ever happened on anyone's podcast ever, and it was my fault because I'm in stupid Canada. But I was like, no, I'm just going to be in this room for all my live streams from now on. It'll be fine. And, yes, it's the 5-timer entry point tonight. But this morning was my 10th time on Keeping It Geekly. And I don't know if we're going to be able to top that because during the live stream, my fucking Great Dane took a shit behind me.
Lovely.
And you can't plan for this kind of magic.
That's true.
No, you cannot. True. That is a kind of magic. That is for sure. And we also we got Jim Lehan in the chat. I am a 2nd-time viewer. Can I join the 2-timers club? Yes, you can.
Thank you,
Jim. Welcome back, Jim, to your 2nd time. You might be able to get in on a 3rd and a 4th, and then we're gone. So please come back for all the final times.
Why? And I need to know why. I understand it's bigger and better, but why is this going away?
Well, a couple of reasons. One, I really want to spend more time marketing the new podcast and actually making a lot of video shorts and getting it up and doing a lot more networking with the other podcasters out there. There's just a lot more on the business side, for lack of a better way of phrasing it, even though it's a lot of hustle, but like business might be stretching the term a little far, at least for right now, because we're just putting something online. But I want to give this podcast more of a real, like, this live stream was something that we sort of fell into because Dallas went to the East Coast. We were no longer in the same room. We had to scrap our plans of what the show was originally going to be. We started doing this instead. It was a lot of fun, but it was all very like going with the flow and wherever the sea breezes took us. And now this podcast, I have a real vision for it. I want to really and it takes time. And doing the live streams right now, like it's doable for these last weeks, doing them both at the same time. But like I can do this for maybe a month, maybe 2, and then it would burn me out. So I don't want to get burned out. I want to just focus on the one thing and really give it my all. And I have, unlike a lot, no offense to the other live streamers out there, because I don't know how you do it. I mean this as a compliment. But how they are able to live stream as much as they do and just live and breathe this all the time. And that is like, it is their sphere. It is their world. A lot of them have day jobs on top of that. And somehow they make it work. I can't do that. I need more variety. I just can't do it one thing that much. So I can do one thing, but then recording, only doing it once a week, and then everything else the rest of the week, and that's gonna be my sweet spot. And I realize that having done these live streams, I know it's my sweet spot. Excuse me. So that's why.
All right. I'll put up with it. You know,
You'll allow it.
I actually
Well,
look. You know, we will get to the meat of this, but like everyone knows, Richard's here. He's got a new comic. Blah blah blah. But like, here's the thing that I think is really important to like the way to move forward for indie comic podcast stuff. And I know you guys are now branching out away from comics, or not away from comics, but becoming more inclusive of other media.
Broadening. Yes.
Yeah. Just allowing the chaff in. The thing about people who make comics, we all end up doing like some variation of the same 5 to 15 shows, and then we appear on them every time we have a new book out, and we try and like mix it up. The people who are listening and watching these things are by and large other creators.
right.
The people who are listening and watching other podcasts that are about broader things are the people who are actually like not comic creators themselves, and that is how we reach a wider audience.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
You know, if I could be wrong about this, but my theory
Speaking of podcasts, speaking of live streamers that can do it so much more than we can and so much better, K-pop junkie in the house. Sup, guys?
But like, you know, if I was to go on a podcast that was like a popular film podcast or something, there's suddenly 30,000 people who have never fucking heard of my books before.
Right.
As opposed to like, let's be realistic, the 10 to 15 people who all know that I'm here and just need the reminder that I'm back with something new.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm excited. I'm excited to see you guys grow.
So that is,
you knew me at the beginning.
Yes. And that is a big piece of the podcast. It's part of what my vision for this show originally was before we jumped into live streams. And live streams really were great for crowdfunding because of how timely they are. And that's what you really need them for more than anything else. But then crowdfunding is, you're right, we're supporting each other. So we're all a bunch of creators supporting each other kind of within a fairly contained ecosystem that to reach that broader audience, it's going to happen in very small bits and pieces, if at all, on live streams for the most part. Whereas a podcast that has that broader reach and that is about broader topics, I think both because comics, entertainment in general, and then wine also, like wine and comics always made sense to me because they are both niche as fuck industries that everyone knows what they are. There's a certain prestige on certain levels of both industries, but they're very niche and they're not, it's hard to get the broader public to want to listen to a wine show if you're not already a wine nerd, if you're not already in the wine industry. Same with comics. And so they made sense going together. But now I'm really hopeful that we can broaden that, bring in things like movies and music and TV, which and even books and literary, like that isn't just comics. Everyone wants to listen to podcasts about those topics. And now we're going to have them have fun with these other niche industries as well and consider them and learn a little bit about them. And I'm very hopeful that both comics and wine can get some other ears / eyeballs, at least when we're putting up the shorts on our TikTok and things like that. A few other ears, a few other eyes on these things. And yeah, fingers crossed. I have a lot of faith in what we've got coming. And we'll see if it pans out, but we're going to do it for a while because I'm okay with slow burn. I just want to give it a shot and give it its all. Yeah.
Well, it's also that like, what's more likely to make you personally buy a book? Is it hearing the person who made the book talk about it for an hour earnestly, giving all of their notes? Or is it hearing that person talk about how cool Speed Racer the movie is and agreeing with all their opinions and then finding out afterwards, oh, and they also make this book. I agree with them about Speed Racer, therefore I'll buy this. Like, I just want a fucking book about the history of the hot dog eating competition because I enjoyed someone on a completely, like, a show never talked about hot dogs once.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So Katie's time. We talk about hot dogs on her stream. We talked about hot dogs. I don't know. You weren't good enough, Richard. I mean, you gotta keep showing up on hers and get to the point where you get to talk about hot dogs.
All I'm gonna say is I will never beat JC, my man, my Lord and Savior, Joey Chestnut, in volume, but I believe that I can eat one hot dog better than him.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Better. You can eat it better.
Yeah.
I like that. So, okay.
Wait, is there innuendo or double entendre there, or are you specifically speaking about hot dogs?
I'm speaking purely about hot dogs.
Okay. All right.
You know, like
you are Richard Fairgray, so I had to make sure.
Oh, I'm not taking that answer as the final answer, even now, even after he said that. But Jim, Wyman Animation, hint, hint. Yes, animation, TV and movies are a part of it. Animation,
that's right.
We're not limiting that to live action. So animation will be. I don't think we'll call it animation. It's a work in progress. We'll see how this evolves. But if anyone wants to bring on an animated film or an animated series, that is proper. K-pop says hi, Jim. Challenge time. Okay, so Richard, describe.
Yes.
How do you eat a hot dog better?
I'm not giving away my fucking. I don't know if Joey watches this. You think I'm just going to reveal my fucking method? No.
Do you want? I thought you wanted more people to watch these shows. You got
to. We could arrange a head-to-head. I mean, we could arrange a head-to-head.
If you reveal your secret, okay, Richard, deal for you. If you reveal your secret, I will release it as a special short that will go along even with the podcast, so that it gets all the eyeballs, all the ears. We'll promote the shit out of you, but only if you give us a clip of how to eat a hot dog better.
You want to make me big for this?
Oh, yep.
And take that how you will.
Sure.
I know.
Okay.
You take your hand and you press your thumb into your palm. Close your fingers around it like a fist, releasing your gag reflex. You will be able to take far more of the hot dog down your throat before you take your first singular bite. It's about the power of the size of the first bite, and then the ability to pull the entire thing back out of your mouth and show them what you have managed. Do not be afraid to get mustard on your nose, because with a long enough tongue, you can just flick that right off. Or wipe it back in with the hot dog as you put it back in your slimy gullet. You can,
ladies and gentlemen, that is how to eat a hot dog.
That was really improvised. I don't actually have a plan. I think what became really clear then was I just want Joey Chestnut to feel threatened.
There was poetry in that description, though, Richard. I have to say.
By the way, this really does release.
Okay, so Richard, I do need one clarification. When you curl your fingers around your thumb, can your fingers still be flat against your palm, or do they have to curl around?
It's more about it's pulling on this part, so it's just about bringing the fingers down.
Doesn't matter. Okay.
Yeah, about pulling on this part when you're making the pressure on the palm.
Cool.
Fun fact. Now, I don't want to make this blue, but if you're using this technique in any adult situations, if you're doing those adult situations with a person who doesn't know you, it's really important to put your hand behind your back before you do it, because if they look down and see you forming a fist in a slow and threatening manner, they will freak the fuck out.
Thank you, Richard, for that addendum.
I think it's important that it's you got a fair warning. Fair warning.
It's the hot dog episode at Wine and Comics Fair.
We have Blake Thomas Morgan, who's joined us just in time for that. Also talking about live streamers that do it so much better and more often than we do. I mean, this is now the people watching us are all the people that it's like, these are the people we could never quite match. We can never quite get up to that level. But now we're going to try something a little bit different and see if we can do it that way. And of course, K-pop's here. Yeah, show that
wrist action.
Slower. We need a diagram. So Richard, you need to do one of those little you're an artist. You need to draw. Like
I think we need an ash can.
Showing how to do the wrist thing and then the insertion into the mouth, and
we need
what to do with the mustard.
Richard.
Should I just do this as a print to sell at cons? Like an 8-step how to deep throat a hot dog?
A print, that'll do it. A zine, a print, whatever. Print's obviously a little less time intensive and probably cheaper. So go with the print.
by Dick Fairgray. You have to change the name slightly. You have to buy the hot dog series by Dick Fairgray.
Yes.
Okay,
okay, we do have shirt 1,000,000%, or is that 10,000? 100,000%.
Yeah.
You can't compete with Blake because you guys, it's a wine show, and Blake doesn't drink on his show
anymore.
Right?
History. Right, let's give a nod to history there.
Let's talk about the comic, because even I can't be this bad at marketing my own shit. I have a new book out.
You do.
So he does, and I never put the thumbnail on the screen. X-Files of Frankenstein, issue number 3 of 4, almost at the end, folks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and let me put that back up there, because once again, this is a image of an actual fucking sculpture that Dick Fairgray made with his own hands, the same hands he curls around his thumbs. So let me tell you, this is
what's the story of this cover?
Be impressed.
This this is the point in the story where things really start to come undone and things become about self-destruction. Self-destruction for comfort, self-destruction to soothe. But this is
the kind of self-destruction, actually.
Yeah, it's my favorite kind, absolutely. And and this is the moment where that all becomes part of it.
Ooh, wait, we have a question in the chat from that. Was Richard on the Artcasters as a guest before? Richard, have you ever been a guest on Artcasters?
I don't believe so, but I have done so many shows.
Gotta look that up.
I don't think so. But this is like this happens to me all the time. Someone was talking to me, like, I saw you on this thing. I'm like running through my brain of like names of podcasts. Like, I don't think I was. And I start describing it. I'm like, I don't think that was me. And then like suddenly it clicks. They were talking about me when I was 8 years old, appearing on a like Saturday morning kids show.
Wow.
Oh, wow. And I was
you started young.
Yeah, I was on that. Like, I was there, and they're like, you were making a pig noise, and I was like, that does sound like something I would do.
well, Paul says yes. I saw Richard on Artcasters.
Yes, I saw Richard on Artcasters.
Oh, you've been on Artcasters.
What's Artcasters?
Don't say that.
Here we go. Okay, so Paul and Jim, remind Richard what the fuck the thing that he was on. What is it exactly?
Because like, here's the thing: if this was during the Octopus campaign, it's a blur.
It's a blur.
The first day of the Octopus campaign, I was on 5 live streams and 3 recorded podcasts.
Jeez,
because I was like, I got to do marketing bigs in the first campaign, and I freaked the fuck out about it. And then I spent all day talking about deeply emotional, sad things and having to like be cheerful about it to make the book sound likable.
Yeah.
Anyway, Artcasters.
Artcasters. It's a great series. Go look it up, guys.
I was like, no. It sounds cool. So out of curiosity, Paul and Jim, if you can even tell us, what is Artcasters as a show? I don't think anyone's ever dropped the mention of that show to me before. I could be wrong about that, but that's one of the issues as a fellow live streamer / YouTuber or what have you. Like, it's the same thing. You try and consume what everyone else is doing all the time, and you're always discovering new shows and trying to watch them and figure out what they, who's out, what's happening. Okay. Was Richard? Oh, what is this? Okay, hold on. Bringing it on screen. Was Richard at that P. Diddy party a few months back? Okay, that was a callback.
All right.
Yeah.
Wait, this was the show where I mentioned that, right? That when the pictures came out from the PD raid, my first thought was, oh shit, he's wearing the same T-shirt as me.
That I don't. Okay, so yeah, 3 artists. This is one. So this was back maybe when you were taking or was this when you were taking the oxygen right after, and then your sleep sucked all over again, or has your sleep always? Because you were doing because you weren't sleeping more, you were just feeling better about not sleeping more with the oxygen for a short while. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So there was that period. The lack of sleep thing, it might mean it was during Black Sand Beach when I was doing the 6 weeks of not leaving my office.
Yeah.
Which is how I got the chemical burns under my scrotum. Not to brag.
All right.
So the X-Files of Frankenstein. Okay.
Chemical burns beneath my scrotum. Sounds like a great band.
So what? No. Okay, letting it go.
No, we're not. Go on, Richard.
No, we're not.
I knew that I had a lot of work to do, and so I was like, well, I'm not going to get home to shower, so I'll buy some like those like sponge bath wipes that you buy. And I bought a pack of 2,000 of these things called adult premium body wipes from a fairly disreputable website, but they were $20 for 2,000. So I was like, that's a great deal.
That's bad.
And they burned the fuck out of me. And there's just sort of a small smooth patch there just in one spot where no hair will grow again. And I have to just explain it to all intimate partners. Just be like, don't worry, it's not like a weird sore or anything. It's a chemical burn from the time I decided not to leave my office for 6 months.
Right. It's healed. It's just there. It's
like I burnt myself out. There was a sort of fatty cyst on a piece of chicken I bit into one time.
Yum.
There's a smooth patch on the roof of my mouth now that I can just like flick with my tongue sometimes. But no one sees that. That just covers up the 666 inside my mouth.
Oh, Richard, I love your visits. I really do.
Indeed, who hasn't had a dreaded scrotum chemical burn?
So, the cover. Tell us about the process of making that cover.
Okay, so I built a wire frame around a hand that's designed to hold jewelry because I needed the fingers to be in slightly different positions, but I needed the basic shape of the hand.
Okay.
Unfolded it, put it back together, folded the fingers together to put the needle into it, built the paper mache around that. All of the paper mache on these covers is made with chapter 20 of Frankenstein. Sometimes double printed, so it creates like a real sort of blurring effect. Cool. And because that's the chapter about the bride.
Yeah.
And then once I'd made the three-dimensional shape, which is actually it's a combination of the hand, and then the arm was actually made by doing paper mache around a talking Snoopy water bottle that, despite the fact that I've never charged it, still sometimes yells things to me in Japanese, but I don't know why or how. It was a cool gift that I'm glad I got. And then I sliced it open or sliced it apart once it was all dried and painted, and put it on a light table. And I put the page 1 of the comic underneath it, turned the light table on, and then photographed through that. Then I printed the photograph, drew all of the line work, traced that on a different light table, scanned that, printed all the line work onto a piece of acetate, and printed page 1, the piece of page 1 that you could see onto a piece of acetate, just to clarify a little. Hung both of those in front of the camera, and then photographed the sculpture a second time through those. So that's why the line work sits a little bit off from where the outlines really should be. That's why it kind of creates this. Essentially, I'm trying to figure out a way to create Photoshop layers in real life so that I can say, here's a cover that while I've used Photoshop in many stages in the middle of this, while I'm scanning and printing, there's actually no Photoshop alteration to the cover at the end.
Fantastic. Yeah,
that is always
it's a great cover.
I'm going to show this one more time because no Photoshop alteration on this image. That's a real image. That's a real sculpture. That's, I mean, not the title, obviously, but the image behind it.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Oh my goodness!
And are we selling this one day, or well, what's the?
I don't know. They're all sitting in the kitchen at my office, just up on a shelf, and they're huge and they're heavy and they make me nervous. The cover for issue 2, I had to glue 2 cell phones into it, and they're not turned off. It turns out that if you have cell phones that do nothing, they're not on Wi-Fi, they're on nothing at all. The only thing they're set to do is for an alarm to go off. On each one once a day. Those fuckers will just go for a month.
Yeah.
Nothing else is happening on those phones, but twice a day, if I'm in my office for a month afterwards, I would hear the song Cotton Candy Girl, which is an unreleased pop song by a 13-year-old billionaire about incest and cannibalism.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right.
If anyone who meets me in person, just say, Richard, can you play me Cotton Candy Girl? I'm like, sure. Welcome to the club.
Cotton Candy Girl. Wow. All right. I want to check that out.
Eating her up like a chocolate mellow swirl is one of the lines.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
It's a lot.
A few more. Catching up with the chat a little bit. Did you see the sponsor from WrestleMania? Apparently something called Dude Wipes.
Dude Wipes.
Richard, ever used Dude Wipes?
I've never heard of Dude Wipes.
Dude Wipes, very popular.
Huge
business now. Yeah.
All right, I'll get into them.
And who hasn't had a scrotum? Say what?
I'm trying to lead a healthier life now, so I have less need for Dude Wipes.
That's good. That's good. Less to wipe away. And yes, who hasn't had a dreaded scrotum chemical burn? Me, Katie, grow a pair. See what I did there? Okay. Hello, K-pop and Jim. Wine and come for the conversation. Stay for the scrotum chemical burns.
See, look, I've given you guys branding. You know, like wine and scrotum chemical burns.
Wine and scrotum burns. Wine and scrotum. Special one-off episode. Let's talk about the many ways of you can get
the kind of like it's got a many ways to scrotum flavoring.
Flavor? Oh, the wine. Yeah, someone has made something that they have never dared bottle and actually release to the public.
Oh yeah.
Someone attempted something, took a sip and was like, "Oh Jesus Christ, no!" And probably if you push them and they had ever experienced it in their life, they would understand that what they had just tasted or smelled was a chemical scrotum burn.
There you go.
Do you think, like,
no doubt that is distinct.
Is it worrying though if you meet someone and they go, "Oh, that tastes like a burnt scrotum," and they don't even have to think about it; they just know.
Mm-hmm.
That person has a great palate. That's what it says.
And life experience.
That person has a great fucking palate.
I think that's the thing. When you're too young and you don't have, that's why all the great wine tasters and critics and blah 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 are usually up there in years, is because they have the life experience to know what these smells and flavors are.
Good, bad, good scrotum.
When you're too young, you haven't gotten there yet. Yeah. You gotta live some. You gotta get out there.
That's right. Got to wade through the field of scroti.
All right, let's go ahead. And speaking of actually being a good salesman and actually marketing what Richard has, let's go ahead and take a look at that Kickstarter page of Ex-Wives of Frankenstein 1 through 3. This is issue 3 of 4 of the 2 ex-wives of Frankenstein trying to get on with their lives and deal with each other as Frankenstein and the monster have come out as a new couple. They actually thought they were dead, but they're not. We never see Dr. Frankenstein or the monster, but we just follow the fallout of them kind of coming back into the media. Of course, the media are all over them because they're famous, or the doctor and the monster are famous. The 2 wives, kind of like, the media is following them, but they are the ex-wives, and that's what it is. And we are almost funded. So, just for us, just for this, 69 backers.
69.
It was meant to be.
It was meant to be.
Really proud of everyone for not saying nice. We're real grown-ups here. So there's the full cover.
We have experienced chemical scrotum burns. We are adults. We are no longer just the young kids who can laugh about 69 anymore.
Sorry, Paul Pate is aggressively taunting me right now. That's hilarious.
Can I ask a really personal and honest question?
Yeah.
We're all the same generation, right? We all just said 69 a lot when we were teenagers because it was the thing that was edgy. It's just giving and receiving bad oral sex. No one's ever actually had a good 69. We can be honest about that.
Okay,
but they're not great.
No, I have to admit. So I've never been a big fan of 69. I was with someone for a long time who authentically enjoyed it, and it was it was a sacrifice because it was just something that was just a favorite. And I was like, all right. For you.
It's got to be the sort of physics have to really sing in order for it to be top tier. That's all I'll say.
It's just every time I've done it, it's really felt like, the other person is like, they want to show that they're into this thing, and it's very much like proving their engagement with sex.
Performative.
Like, I'm a sex person. I can do this, and I think, and just to be real, I think this is the same thing that's happening with rim jobs now with people younger than us. I don't think that they're just saying it to be shocking, and the problem is now older people are hearing about it and thinking they have to do it to keep up, and it's just like, okay, if you insist, but like, I'm going to be on my phone.
Yes.
Richard, I have to say, I need you to start a little podcast where you deep dive into the sexual lives of the late Gen Z, and I'm assuming sexagenarians, as you say, old people, I'm assuming.
At least. No one
just sort of the differences, because this is a line of discussion we have never crossed, and wow.
But what wine would it pair with?
What wine would 69 pair with? That's
okay. Richard, when you do launch this, Hot Dogs and Rim Jobs is what the title of this podcast has to be.
Yeah. And Paul Payne is still on Nancy Oakes.
And as we were saying about the symmetry
a while ago.
Parts need to line up just right. Yes, it is. It's awkward when they don't line up just right. But I do think, to Richard's point, it's a lot like, the Kama Sutra positions and shit like that, where people are just like, we got to mix it. We got to do these things because they're wild and crazy and big and extreme and flexy
novel.
And and it's just sort of like, do you? Like, how jaded and not into this do you have to be to have to go to those, like, maybe if you're like a long-term couple and you really have run the gamut and you need something to spice it up and you got to try some new things, okay, great. But like, especially if it's like a new partner or something, it's like, what do you need all the crazy parts for? Like, that's just, I don't know.
I think it's complicated because, like, on the one hand, I think like the best thing you can do with a new partner is say, like, here's the weirdest shit I'm into right away, and if they're still there after an hour on Pornhub, fucking marry them. But like,
did you say Pornhub?
Like
Pornhub,
sit down on Pornhub with your partner and say, okay, here's everything. This is everything that I like, and if they stay, good. If they don't, you've lost one night.
There you go.
The other part of it, I think you're right. Like, it is about staying fresh and in the moment and everything. But my other question is, would you be more or less receptive to the Kama Sutra if it was all illustrated with the two people from the IKEA instructions?
That'd be awesome. Honestly, I'd be more into it then.
Yeah, with diagrams, absolutely.
It's more interesting that way. It's not what you'd expect.
I have a okay, this is gonna sound like a brag. I'm not. I'm really, look, I'm acceptable at sex. I've done it. I'm not bragging. But there's this thing that's happened to me a couple of times in my life where a person that I've had sex with once has said the words to me, "I can really tell you love me by the way that you fuck." And I'm like, hey, look at that Richard-shaped hole in the wall that just formed. And so I've been trying to figure out what's going on. And so I kind of broke down my technique, and I've had this conversation with people where I found other people.
I am purposefully mediocre now because I had to pull back my ability, my sheer.
No, it's about. I'm not holding back anything. It's that I don't think I can reach the levels of greatness. But something was happening that made them feel this connection. And I was talking to a friend of mine who the same thing has happened to, and we broke it down. And it turns out we both were, inadvertently using the exact same sex technique. Oh. And it's not about the actual fucking; it's about all of the build up to it. And it's essentially, you put your hand on the back of the person's head, pull them in close, tip your forehead towards theirs, get as close to their mouth as you can without kissing them, and then just before you would kiss them, sort of climb them like a tree. And It just creates this real sense of intimacy and intensity.
Bill Tarzan technique.
Can I just say though, Richard? I need to actually do that to a woman and actually climb on top of her like that while she's, I'm assuming, like standing, and see how well that holds up. Because
you really got to try and work like you're trying to get to the top of the person. And so last year at Comic-Con, I was explaining this to my dear friend. I won't say my friend's name because that would be a massive reveal because of how the story ends. I was explaining this to a close friend of mine, and she was like, "No, show me how to do it." And I was like, "I'm not doing this with you because she and I have a pact that if neither of us are married by the time we're 30, we're going to get together, which is fine because I'm married and 39 and she's well into her 40s." But I sort of led her through the description with this like guy who was sitting near us at the bar. They hooked up that night, and then I saw her like 6 months later, and she's like, "We're still dating. I think we're in love. Your fucking technique worked."
There you go.
So
I'm expecting an ash can on that as well.
Yeah, maybe I should just do Richard like to say.
Instructional. Yes, it's telling you.
I will.
It's Dick Fairgray's guide to boinking.
It's now on my list of possible like things to, lack of a better term, whip out, and when the time is right. And all right,
let's
try it. See how it goes.
Dickie Fairgray.
Well, by Richard. Coverage is me like this.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness. All right.
Back on topic, boys.
Well, I'm gonna put that here. Here is a hand that you can. Did you say that people could purchase this sculpture, Richard?
No, it'll be at my booth at Comic-Con in San Diego if people want to come and try it out. Jesus Christ.
There you go. This hand could be very useful for all sorts of things. I mean, look at it, people.
Sure.
So, if this is something that you are interested in, you might want it. And it is made by a proper sexpert, Dr. As K-pop said in the chat here, Dr. Dick Sex. Oh, nope, that's her laugh out loud. But this one, nope, that's adventurous.
Nope. Back up. There you go.
This one is Dr. Dick Sexpert in the house. So Dr. Dick Sexpert made this sculpture just for you. Buy a sculpture from a sexpert. That's what you want. All right. Oh, and the bonus book, right? Free for the first 50 physical backers. Talk about this, Richard.
Okay, so back in 2010, Jesus, I'm not that old. It's not that long ago. Back in 2014, whenever it was that DC launched the New 52, and my friend Theo and I were out for a walk, and we were talking about how, like, if DC are going to be putting out a book every week, that's not that impressive because they probably have like at least 5 or 6 people who work there, right?
Yeah.
And at my company at the time, Square Planet, it was just Theo and I. And he was like, it'd be way more impressive if we did 52 books. And I was like, well, yeah, but we don't want to slow down on any of our other books. We're not doing a reboot. And he was like, okay, then how impressive would it be if we did 52 books on top of our regular books? So we came up with Richard and Theo's Funny Books, a year-long project to put out 52 8-page mini comics that would run the gamut and help us burn off all of our like ideas that we didn't have time for, or that were like little standalone pieces, or like more like campfire tales, really.
Yeah.
It ended up it's the full collection is actually 64 books because there's the 52 funny books, a spin-off from Theo's book about a bumbling detective, and then 11 issues of Ghost that all fit the same format. Correct. And they've never been available outside of New Zealand. So I've decided I want these books to be in print. I want them on my shelf. So every Kickstarter campaign, or at least the bigger ones, I might not do this on the 3 to 5 day campaign things I'm doing, but all the big campaigns, I'm going to have a free book, one of a 64 book series for the first 50 backers.
Jeez Louise. So
I just sent off the first 12 to be printed yesterday. So this is full steam ahead no matter what. So yeah, the first 50 people, it doesn't increase the shipping cost, it doesn't increase anything. I will just during fulfillment, I will list the backers by the order that they backed and assign each of them a copy of one of 64 books, of of the one that is for this thing, and people can collect them. They will not be sold individually. I may do something later where I do like catch-ups, or maybe a catch-up campaign of like a box of the first 8 or something, and I will probably at some point release them all in one big collected volume. But as of now, these are the extremely limited only way to get these fucking things, and I will not be reprinting. So yeah.
Nice.
Well, I for one would definitely be looking forward to that collected volume at the end. That sounds fantastic, just to get all those in one tome. Hell yeah.
And it's like so this one it's a story about a fantastic theme park where you get to see what the world of the future looks like, and how the town falls apart when the man of tomorrow disappears. It's about extramarital affairs and children's wishes for the future and nostalgia for theme parks that I've never been to.
Interesting. Cool. Did you? And what is the title a play on that Alan Moore Superman story?
Yeah. So a lot of these things started out as like sort of parody title things. This is actually where Wet Cement first appeared. The story of Wet Cement is a little comic. But we have great titles like The Visible Man, which is about the cousin of the Invisible Man, who's always like just mad that his cousin doesn't appreciate him. We've got The Dad of Frankenstein, which is about Victor Frankenstein's father being worried that his son really has like no motivation.
Yeah.
And it's Frankenstein Sr. runs a restaurant called Franks and Steins where they sell beer and sausages, and a lot of customers like to point out that, well, actually, Franks and Steins is the name of the chef, not the restaurant. But he realizes that to ensure his son doesn't die penniless, he needs to create the perfect sausage for the restaurant. And he goes and digs up all through the trash to find all the pieces of old sausages that were great, to stitch them together and make a great Frankenstein sausage.
Right. Yeah.
It's that kind of quality stuff. Irrelevamp is in there, a vampire who used to be cool.
The Relevamp?
Irrelevant.
I like that.
Irrelevant.
Yep. Yeah, so it's just like, and some of them are like sort of bigger stories. I do some like noir pastiche. There's a thing called The Angel with the Scruffy Hair, which is a real noir story, but it's about kids in a treehouse. And one of them has blown up a cat in the mailbox, and some revenge is being taken. So yeah, what exactly happened to the Man of Tomorrow was the first in the series, and people need to get it while they can, because I think there's 12 available at this point.
Wow. They're moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What else you got there,
Nice,
Dave?
nice. All right. And then we've got the many different covers. So here's one of the alternate covers.
Oh.
This is Heather Vaughn.
Heather Vaughn.
Yeah. That's
beautiful. Great. Yeah, I like that one. That's very cool. And then of course, yet another one.
This is the one I call Stop Asking Me If This Is Gonna Happen.
Very nice. Very nice. That's funny. Everyone kept expecting this in this particular story.
Yeah, everyone asked, like, are they gonna fuck? Like, is that where you're going with this? Are they gonna fuck? Like, the tension between them is so intense.
Interesting.
And I'm like,
that's not the tension that's between them. It's not. No. I mean, there is tension, but not that tension. Or I never. Yeah.
Wow. I also like to refer to this as the "Step on Me, Mommy" cover.
Ooh, what's "Step on Me, Mommy"?
It's a sort of just a vague allusion to the fetish of having a dominant older woman.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a literal like a movie or something.
No, like I have this, I have this character who is this fetishized object created for someone else's pleasure, made of corpse parts. I wanted the opportunity to show her in a sexy way, but I also wanted to like be able to put this woman in her 50s on the cover in her underwear and say like this is the kind of body that you don't see on comic covers.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
and I think it may not be everyone's thing, but I think I've made it it's very sexual and powerful, I hope.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then here's the slightly more psychological thriller version of a cover here.
This is my splitting headache cover. My whole vibe here was, if this were a Criterion Collection DVD, what would the booklet look like?
Yeah, good call.
Yeah.
Good call.
Yeah, this gives it a very like Hitchcockian or like Cronenbergian or something in that vein.
Yeah. And I wanted to really play with this one with, like, obviously the stitching on her face is tearing apart. So, like, depending which part you focus on shows you how she's being torn apart by this moment. Because if you look at her mouth, that makes no sense. It's just the image is being ripped apart, not her stitching. If you look at her hair, the same thing. So it's that thing of, like, depending which part you focus in on is going to change how you view the story and where you think the problem is, because the problem is multi-layered and complex.
Yes.
This is also what I call the overthinking cover.
And weird object reward. Okay. Is this like the matches in the previous one?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So there were the matches and the sewing kit on the previous two, and this is the emergency wrench for the monster who likes to keep it tight on the go. And it'll come in a nice little box, and inside the lid of the box will be a QR code so you can download the comic.
Nice. Gotcha. And the sewing kit and the matches. Are all three still available?
Yes. And there's actually they're all $12, or there's the emergency preparedness kit for $30.
Nice. And then, of course, sample pages in case you've never seen the interiors of this book. Mostly black and white with touches of color. It's kind of how we're going, or not quite black and white even, because you've got some shades and different shades of
some good grayscale,
beige, and there's always a little bit, but the color is very subtle all throughout.
Well,
except of course for the Frankenstein lady.
It's a story about two women who are. It's impossible for them to be invisible, but it's always much easier for Elizabeth to be invisible. So she's in color, but not as much color as Victoria.
Right.
And so Victoria is green, but wears entirely gray.
Right. And she can just take her jacket off and be much more invisible versus Victoria, which is, the more she takes off, the more visible she is in that regard. Yeah.
And then my little nod of color there, that in the first issue, you see Victoria outlining all of her scars in lipstick. And so, like, the thing that her defensive move, her armor that she's creating, it's the same exact color as the doorman at Elizabeth's apartment, because that's her line of defense. That man is her lipstick.
Gotcha. Yep.
Again, I'm overthinking these things.
I mean, it makes sense when you explain it.
Yeah.
And red is always, I think, especially if you do, Sin City did this, of course, but in one of the more famous examples. But anytime you have black and white or shades of gray predominantly, and then you throw in red specifically, that's always going to mean an element of whether danger or defense. It's like it's something extreme. It's something that has to do with violence or, anger, something of that nature, where, again, whether it's defense or aggression, red will always read that way.
And very astute viewers will notice that the apartment that Elizabeth lives in is very similar to the apartment of Serena Vanderwoodson from Gossip Girl.
I would not know that.
I was deep in a Gossip Girl rewatch when I was first writing this, and I think that Lily Bass is a huge inspiration for Elizabeth. Just that sort of, she seems cold. There's parts of her that are caring, but she's afraid of those parts. She is the most interesting character on that show.
Well, that's an interesting one to have sold first.
Well, you got the arm being ripped apart.
Yeah. So I like that one with all the screens. That was well laid out.
Thank you.
And it has that sort of like, it has the energy of, like, the onslaught of what's happening to her in that moment, and how, like, she's flailing, but the screens are also, they're everywhere, they're far away, like there's nothing you can actually do. about it, and you get that sense of chaos and helplessness from this image.
But it's also that, like, you know, all the screens are showing the aftermath, and none of them show what he just did to her.
Right.
Like, you know how this is going to be framed when it gets put on the news. And here is my page of self-care. One of them stitching themselves back up, the other one pouring herself some wine.
Definite self-care. We approve. Wine is never self-destructive. Never. Only self-care.
Never.
Hey, I finished that entire box I bought for the last show.
Oh, goodness. So it's interesting that you mentioned that this issue was all about, or a big piece of it was about the self-destructive qualities of the woman and the situation that they find themselves in. And I didn't personally read it that way, even though I know I almost felt like they were doing what was necessary to almost like recalibrate themselves in this issue. Where it was both some of the pages you're not seeing something that happens in the second half of the issue that it's Victoria, and what's our green girl's name? I'm forgetting her name.
Victoria is the green girl. Elizabeth
is the other one. Okay, so Victoria does something that Richard, you had mentioned that this scene was coming the last time you were on the show when we were talking about issue number 2. You said this was coming in issue number 3, a scene where Victoria would be doing this, but seeing it in this one, I'm like, so in your mind, was that a self-destructive or a self-care moment with what she does in the bathroom?
Yeah, you know, bathrooms, I think, for all of us are a sanctuary. You know, we can, no matter which bathroom it is, even if you're at a fucking shopping mall, you can just close yourself in a stall for a second before someone starts yelling at you to get out because you're in a stall with them. No, dumb joke. You can find the sanctuary in a bathroom, and like when you just need a break from the world, it's the only room we have that gives you a break from the world.
Yeah.
And in all 4 of these issues, a character goes to the bathroom. And it's always because they like it's never just because, hey, I need to, you know, piss. It's I need a break from what's happening right now. In issue 2, it's when things are going so well with the 2 of them in issue 2, and then there's like a little bit of bitterness, and Victoria just says, I'm going to go to the bathroom. You should get us more drinks. And it's clear that this is this is going well. Let's not ruin it by saying the next sentence. Let's skip over it while I'm out of the room. Then, of course, that's when Elizabeth sees the old interview on the news based on, I was going to say loosely, based incredibly specifically on the first interview Courtney Love did after Kurt's suicide. But, you know, that's the thing that angers her again. And so then all of the tension that's in issue 3 is her responding to that. And Victoria doesn't know that she's just seen it. She doesn't know why this stuff is like, why the tone has changed when she came back from the bathroom. And so the bathroom scene in this is like, it's either the addict who goes away to the bathroom to just do one more line to maintain through the night, or it is I just need a fucking break, and this is an actual circuit breaker to make this work.
Right.
You know, this is the like they've gone to this place because Elizabeth feels safe there. This is the apartment where Victoria was made. This is the place where she woke up. This is the place where all of the bad things happened to her, and she has to be here for it again.
I didn't quite catch that. Got it.
Yeah, all the discussion about the ventilation and the smell and there's a moment in number 2 where they're talking about her being laid out on the kitchen counter in pieces, and then like so much of this happens around that kitchen counter.
A scene of the trauma.
The page you're on right now, that panel looking up through the wine glass, it makes no sense for Victoria to be appearing in that side of the glass. That is where she would be reflected in the glass if she were still in pieces on the counter.
Right.
Again, I overthink.
I was gonna say you do overthink this shit.
No, not at all. That's great.
I mean, it's awesome, but at the same time, it's like, that's a lot of meaning packed into images that you don't need to know have all that meaning. In terms, like, the reader doesn't need to catch on to all of that, but that's a lot to read into. Yeah, I think for me, when Victoria went to the bathroom and did her, had that sort of circuit breaker reset, I think for me, like, I totally got the addict element to that at the very least, where yes, you're going to the bathroom to do whatever, like that, you're doing that one more line, which is like, but I didn't know whether it was bad for her the way that, I mean, it could be addictive, maybe, like you don't want to depend on it all the time. But in the same way that, people need to, sometimes walking away, even momentarily, can just diffuse a situation. It gets you back to good. It gets the other person back to good. Now you can deal with the issue, rather than if you just stood your ground, if you just stood there trying to be like, I can't step away, I can't retreat even for a second, everything just gets worse and worse and worse. And so for me, when she went to the bathroom and did that and then came out and she's like, yeah, that did reset me. I'm ready to deal with what's happening now. It just seemed to me like that almost was the opposite of self-destructive behavior. Where it was like, good, I'm glad everyone's doing what they think they need to do. I feel like almost Elizabeth bringing her to this place and being in her sanctuary, it was her version of what she needed to do to deal with this. So it's like everyone was doing what they needed to do to move us into that fourth and final issue, to like be in a better place to deal with the ultimate fallout. That was my reading on it.
Anyway. Yeah. Well, I think you're right, but I think that Elizabeth's motivation to go there is that she knows, she does feel safe there. But I think if she were really pressed, and she would admit this after 6 years of therapy, that she absolutely knew on some level that it would be a place where Victoria would be uncomfortable, and that she could justify it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, if Victoria hadn't gone to the bathroom and done what she did, she would never have been ready to see what Elizabeth's life was really like and what Elizabeth really goes through. And the moment that happens after that, and the reveal of the issue, couldn't have happened before that bathroom visit, and couldn't have happened if they hadn't been there. So like by accident, Elizabeth has really shown her, this is what my life is like. This is the challenge of it. This is why I feel powerful and worthless all at once.
Right.
Yeah. Good note.
All right.
The bundles.
Right, so the bundles, getting into what you can get outside of just obviously the single issues, any of the covers that you would like, but then you can also, there is the digital bundle of everything from the Richard Sucks line of comics. Everything pictures here: Octopus, the 2 volumes of Haunted Hill, all the issues of Ex-Wives of Frankenstein to date, Wet Cement issue 1, this comic book character, which only just ended before you launched this one. So I actually don't even know what this is entirely. I've already forgotten, but I backed it. But it came and went so fast. This is one of your 5-dayers. So I was like, wait, I blinked and I forgot. I'm like, what? So explain to us the comic book character one.
Okay, so again, back in 2014, when I was in the middle of doing 52 extra books in a year. By the way, I should also say about the little mini comics, Theo and I wrote them all together, and some of them are entirely drawn by him, some of them are entirely drawn by me, but about half of them are either penciled by me and inked by him, or the other way around. And the idea was that by the end of it, you wouldn't really have a sense of who was responsible for which parts of the books. So while I was in the middle of all of that, I was like, I fucking hate comic strips. Like, they're fine to read. I just can't do one. I wrote a daily web comic for 8 years, and I hated it. I didn't draw it. If I had to draw it, every time I've tried to draw a comic strip, 3 strips in, I get bored of drawing such similar shit, and I just find a shortcut. I did a thing that lasted for 7 strips one time, that by the 4th strip, the characters were inside a closet in the dark, Like, I literally got that lazy. And then I just didn't even fill it in with black. I was like, I'll do that digitally, and then didn't. Like, that's, as soon as I have a shortcut, I stop caring. So I was like, well, I do like drawing myself, though. That's quite fun. And I had been in London for a convention, and I had been cold, so I went and bought a Batman onesie before onesies were really big. And it was made of this really like cheap, shitty t-shirt fabric, and it was so comfortable. And I've never found one even remotely similar. It did have a piece of wire sticking out of the bottom of the zipper, but it sat perfectly in my belly button, and as long as I didn't lean forward, it wouldn't puncture me.
Wow.
But anyway, so I had that, and so I just drew this one-off thing. It was me sitting there drawing comics, and it said like sometimes drawing comics is boring, and then the same exact framing, but I'm dressed as Batman. It says so sometimes I do it dressed as Batman, and I was like, oh, that was quite fun to draw, and it took about an hour. I could do 3 of these a week, and just based on little moments from my life. And I wanted to do a memoir at the time, and I realized that my life was boring, so I shouldn't. And so over the course of about
I'm not sure how true that is, but sure.
One day we'll talk about what my life was like in New Zealand. I was leading a pretty complicated double life, but I couldn't put it on paper. You know what I mean?
Okay. That makes sense.
So I did like 150 of these strips. Honestly, many of them should have just been tweets. They didn't need a picture. Some of them are really topical, and some of them are just like weird ass surrealist jokes that work better with the picture as well, that I really like. And so I put out this book. I was like, it's Richard Fairgray comic book character, the good ones and more. And it's the 24, maybe 28 best strips from the run, all the ones that are landscape format. I'm actually going to put out a second volume called The Topsy-Turvy Formatting of Richard Fairgray comic book character, where I have 12 portrait format and 12 landscape format ones later this year. But I'm going to put like they're just going to be rotating throughout. So you have to, it's not just like turning the book like this, then like this. It's this, and just keep turning the book around because my readers will love it. So that was what came out last week. And no, it doesn't count toward my 300 because I'd already counted it because I'd already done all of the strips.
Of course it doesn't.
So there's that.
All right, guys. Well, that is part of this huge. Oh, and the Too Hot for Octopus.
Right.
Don't forget that to go along with Octopus.
Right. So
as well as the physical.
The diary.
Yes. And all of these, except for it looks like not the Haunted Hills. And not the octopus for the
so this is what we call the Richard Sucks floppies.
Right, floppies versus thick ones. I forget about that. Yes.
Richard Sucks floppies and Richard Sucks thick ones.
Gotcha. So the tiny one, and is this like a Haunted Hill little ash can thing? I forget what this little guy is right here.
It was it's the first issue, but just the pencils, and so you get to see all of the notes and the early drafts and the changed panels.
Very cool.
All right. Perfect. All right. And then the thick ones, all the full volume / graphic novels, which includes Shed and 4-Color Heroes, which he can't give you digitally because they are from other publishers, but he can give you for his physical copies that he still has some left. So make sure you get in on that. And Ghost, which is a rare one. So that is also
Ghost was published by Stacked Deck Press last year, so it's the collected edition of all 11 mini comics.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Very cool.
Yes. Beautiful. Oh man. All right. And then add-ons, of course, you can add on a number of these physical editions to anything else you're getting.
There are other add-ons as well.
All right.
Just the ones, you know.
Yeah.
You can of course add on more copies and all that kind of normal shit.
All right. And did you have a video up here? Oh, you did have a video. Let's play the video. We forgot to play the video. Here we go.
Oh, hey, it's Richard Fairgray here from Comics, like these ones. And I'm here to tell you about my 276th book and 8th Kickstarter campaign for The Ex-Wives of Frankenstein 3. Elizabeth Frankenstein and the Bride of the Monster on the day they find out their husbands are alive, living as a gay couple in the Arctic, and returning to the city as heroes of Reddit, Twitter, and the MRE movement. This is a story about two women pitted against each other by every aspect of society, including a literal monster, knowing that despite not liking each other much, today, above all else, they need each other. There's digital, there's physical, there's variant covers, original art, and it wouldn't be a Richard Fairgray campaign without a weird object. And this time it's the emergency wrench for monsters who like to keep it tight on the go. And of course, that comes with a QR code to download the comic instantly. But I'm doing something new this time. And by something new, I mean something very old. Back in 2013 and 14, Theo McDonald and I released a run of 64 mini comics called the Richard and Theo Funny Books Project, but they've never been available outside of New Zealand. So I'm making all 64 of them free through Kickstarter campaigns, starting with issue 1, What Exactly Happened to the Man of Tomorrow, available free to the first 50 physical backers. This is sci-fi horror comedy about nostalgia for theme parks, and you don't want to miss out on this. So back the project, find your reward, get yourself a wrench. You know how it goes.
All right.
Can you tell that I did that at 4 o'clock this morning?
No.
Like, I have never seen myself. I didn't even watch it before I posted. It was very much like last minute homework thing of I was like, I got so much other shit to do.
Yeah.
You want to know what I spent my day doing today? I built my next Kickstarter campaign.
Of course you did.
Horror Shorts 1 and 2 now in full color, coming in just 4 weeks.
While you were searching for pants on eBay, apparently, right?
Jorts.
Yes.
This is an ongoing gag that no one ever seems to notice, is that I'm constantly if you ever see a screen in the background, I'm always looking up used jorts.
Jorts. Gotta love jorts.
Jorts. That's cute. I've never noticed that. I will start noticing that.
That's a great title. Used jorts.
All right.
I've always wanted. I do this other joke in the background of many of my comics. There's always a store called Used Pets. No one ever notices that either.
No. I need to start paying more attention to people's backgrounds. Or what's on their computer screen, I should say, because I always pay attention to like the backgrounds. That's something I'm generally keen on, but not people's computer screens. I think that I have a knee jerk, like, oh, that's private. I shouldn't look at that. Like they didn't think to not have their screen on screen. Yeah. Oh yeah. K-pop's like, I have an eye for the finer details. You do. All right. Any last words on this campaign, Richard, before we take it off screen?
No. I think people should just go back at. We've passed the 69 point now, so we got to get.
We're at 70.
We're at 70, so now it's age appropriate for me. Is this? I've got a joke that I haven't posted to Twitter.com yet. And I want to run it by you.
Go for it.
Okay.
Authentic Caesar salad should really have laurel leaves in it.
Laurel leaves.
Okay. All right.
That's bad. No, you should add that to your strips. You should add that to your
funny, but it's fun.
I wrote a thing the other day that I didn't put in a newsletter where someone had made some stupid comment to me about I'm doing a line of merchandise for Pride this month called Dirtbag Pride, where it's all the shit that like I would want to say, like too lazy to be bi, or Grindr counts as a fitness app, or gay divorce. And someone made some comment about it, and I said back to them, I think that bisexuality is just far more common in our generation because gay boys and straight girls had Shirley Manson from Garbage.
Ooh,
and
that's good.
It's it's true.
It's true.
But I don't know if anyone remembers how incredibly attractive Shirley Manson was to Annie and all of us.
Oh yeah. I actually, in my neighborhood, I see her in the neighborhood. I used to see her in my neighborhood all the time, and I would just stop and stare at her all the time. She'd be like, "Yeah, it's me."
She lives in your neighborhood?
Yeah, she used to. I don't know if she's still there, but yeah, you should see her probably twice a week.
I was going to say, your guys' neighborhoods.
That's right. You live near me. Oh yeah, yeah. You should have seen her.
I've told you, Busy Phillips lives near me, and have I told the story on the podcast before?
Probably. Go for it though.
I don't think so. Not Busy Phillips. That's a new one to me.
So I'm sitting at my favorite Thai restaurant, and there's a and Busy Phillips is one table over and one table back in my eye line, but the guy facing me does not know she's there. And he says, "Do you want to hear my new joke?" And I say, "Sure." And he says, "What do you call a blonde twink's asshole?" And I said, "What?" And he said, "Bussy Phillips." And she just looked and went like that, totally silent. And I just like kind of raised my eyebrows at her. And that was why my fish, my beloved fish in the fountain of my office with the big gaping mouth, is named Busy Fish Lips because he's making the same expression as her.
That's right. You did tell the story. Okay, I remember. It's all coming back to me now.
And I got word recently. I was talking casually about Busy Fish Lips, telling the story about the guy fucking the fish at a party, and someone said, Busy knows about that, right? And then just walked away. I was like, I don't know who you are. I don't know what just happened, but so now I have to figure that out.
Yeah. Oops.
I hope she likes it.
Yeah. How is that not a drag name? Busy Fish Lips or just Busy Phillips? Straight up.
Bussy Phillips. Bussy Phillips should be a drag name. It's very good.
Bussy Phillips. Bussy Phillips. Yeah.
Bussy. All right, guys. We are ready for the wine pairings with Ex-Wives of Frankenstein number 3.
Yeah.
Where did we go? Dallas. Fran,
I'm going first.
I'm going to make you start this. Now, I did want to mention, because I took stock of this before coming here. So the last time you did the Lisboa, so Lisbon, Portugal, the 2021 Castelo, right? Mm-hmm. Castelo del Sulco was your issue number 2. So where are you going from that to this one? Did things change? Did things not change?
Things did change, and I think they went back to issue number 1.
Okay.
I believe I jumped back to what I paired with issue number 1. As previously stated, when I do these pairings, I'm either the sort of Where's Waldo character in the background of the world who will never lift a finger to help an individual. No, old lady, sorry, I'm not helping you. I'm the guy
AKA Elizabeth, you're on your own.
Sorry, I'm going to enjoy all the mayhem passively while obnoxiously sniffing my wine in the corner and probably playing on my phone. Or the spirit I enjoy while actually reading. And for this one, I went back to that original kind of rubric and decided to pick a spirit that I would enjoy while actually in the world. And for me, I always associate the notion and concept of Frankenstein and anything sort of Frankenstein adjacent with powerful and potent smells. And throughout the ages, there have been many, many wines and aperitifs and spirits which have been used for their potent noses. And this one in particular, I just lost it. Can you guys hear me? Are you still there?
Yes. Yep.
No, hold on.
Okay. We can hear you.
Yep. There?
Can you hear us? We can hear you still, but
okay, we're back. All right.
Okay.
So I went with a Rosado or Rosé treatment of a vermouth, or the Listau Vermouth Rosé Rosado. It is a Spanish, of course, version. The nose is kind of all over the place. It's a blend of a fruity red wine. There's a fino or fine sherry base to it. The end is sort of dusky and dusty. You've got.
I'm assuming sweet. I'm assuming it's sweet vermouth.
You've got. Right? Say again.
I'm assuming it's a sweet vermouth. Yeah.
The palate is very sweet and juicy. It is extremely juicy. It stands on its own, which you don't often find with lots of vermouths. It also has a pretty soothing vanilla back end. Like I said, it's got quite a bit of aromatics in it that just slap you about and take your olfactory senses off of whatever's going on in the room. And I imagine there may be a few occasions when that is necessary, dealing with Frankenstein adjacent characters in your world.
And hold that. I'm going to make you bigger, Dallas. Hold the bottle up one more time and hold it there for a bit longer. Just
there
so
we
can
are.
Really get that Vermouth Lustau Rosé.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Fantastic.
I don't think I've ever had
it's very
a
lovely
rosé. Yeah, I don't think I've ever had a rosé vermouth. I've had the dark, I've had the white, and all. Yeah. I mean, if you're drinking it on its own, it's going to be a sweet vermouth. There's no dry vermouth you want to drink on its own.
Exactly.
To my knowledge. But yeah, good stuff.
That's my
good
guy.
stuff. Okay.
What you got?
So, I went from issue number 1. I've basically done a white and a red in the past for issue 1 and issue 2, and I really did stick to the same rubric. The first issue I did a white called Erbaluce from Italy. It's a native grape that is becoming more prominent. It was almost lost to time, almost went extinct. Italy kind of brought it back and took pride in it now, and it's a very refined, austere. I described it at the time as like drinking a melted iceberg. It's just very clean, so clean, and that austereness and the cleanness, especially with issue number 1. There's plainly all this baggage going on between these two women and the situation they're in, but the storytelling had this very like everything's in the background. They're talking about very little up front. You're almost going through this like talking around the issues and talking around each other and figuring out how to be in the same room with each other. And this very austere, clean white wine with just these mineral components, this wonderful acidity, but nothing too sharp, nothing too tangy, not fruit forward at all. It was just this beautiful, clean white wine that I was just like, this is the right mood for what's happening in this comic. For issue number 2, I went to a red that was an Austrian red blend of Zweigelt, which is a native Austrian grape, and Pinot Noir. Austrian Pinot Noir, again, not fruit forward, very dialed back fruit. It's very herbaceous, zingy acidity, and the Zweigelt is very tart. So for a red wine, it just had this very clean, nothing too powerful. Everything's dialed back to the hilt because it's such a cold climate. So that really worked as a red that could go for this entire series. So today, for issue number 3, outside, like, could you go with either of those two wines and just keep going with them? 100%. You could go for that Erbaluce, you could go for that Zweigelt Pinot Noir. But I really wanted to see, like, what else could you do? And I decided to go this time for a bit of a mini flight of 2 wines and pour yourself like a half glass of each. And each wine represents one of the 2 main characters that we're following in this story. And I decided to go for, and these are 2 wines, Richard, that are here in LA at the place that I'm working at called the Blending Lab. So the next time you're in LA, we'll have to get together. I will I'll treat you to these 2 wines. You can decide for yourself if they match these 2 characters as well as they did for me. But I went for, this is a white Grenache Blanc and an orange Gigi Grenache Gris. And Grenache Blanc and Grenache Gris are, and by the way, guys, this is a winery called the Blending Lab here in
That's
LA.
Right. Yeah.
In LA, you can't really find it anywhere else, but you can find Grenache Blancs and you can find Grenache Gris oranges out there. And I'm assuming they would make similar wines to what the Blending Lab did. So Grenache Blanc and Grenache Gris are 2 mutations of the primary red Grenache grape. Just called, the full name of Grenache is Grenache Noir because there are these mutations, or Garnacha if you get it from any Spanish-speaking countries. And obviously Grenache Noir, Garnacha is a red skin version of the grape. A mutation is not the same as a different varietal. A mutation is the DNA is the same between the grapes. They are just mutations of the same basic genetic product. So they're still Grenache. But Grenache Blanc is a pure white skin grape. And this is actually a skin contact white of Grenache Blanc. So it gets a little darker. It's hard to see in this lighting, but it does get a little more like piss yellow because it has that extra skin extract in there. So it gets a little bit darker, a little more flavor gets in there. And then an orange wine, Grenache Gris, is a pinkish grayish, which is why it's gris for gray. It's like this muddled pink and gray skinned version of Grenache. And when you soak it on the skins, it turns this kind of orange, very pale, almost pinkish orangish, or grayish orangish. When you look at it in person, it's a very light color, but it has turned orange. And so the Grenache Blanc, I think for me, is Elizabeth. The Grenache Blanc it's got, especially with that skin extraction, it's white, so it doesn't have the power of a red, but like there's a lot of funkiness to go with your general fruit flavors. You get some lemon. You definitely have the lemon, this tiny bit of something tropical like pineapple, but only a tiny bit. And then you've got this barnyard funk that's in there that is like, it takes some getting used to. It's like a little something where you're just sort of like, okay.
Straw.
Yeah. You're like, all right. I wasn't prepared for that. And so it's like, it's got this. And then the color of it is like this dark hay or dark straw color from that skin extraction. And it's very pleasant once you get used to it. But it's one of those whites that you look at it and you smell it and you just get this like lemony smell. You think it's going to be this fresh, bright, light on its feet. It's not a super powerful wine. You don't think it's going to be. And then you sip it and it's got some oomph to it and it's got some punch and that you're not expecting. And I think that really describes the Elizabeth persona to me. Whereas the orange wine, which you would think has the oomph because it's got the skin, it's actually changed color to a significant degree. And it has the only kind of oomph it has, or actually, let me dial back. So this orange wine, the Grenache Gris, the flavor profile is basically like red tea, like rooibos tea. So you have this nice little gentle citrus and vanilla flavor compounds that are in there in this very otherwise clear white wine. But then it's got the tannic structure from the skin extraction, and the tannic structure is much harsher than what's in the Grenache Blanc. So you get that graininess that's on the tongue and kind of in the mouthfeel of the whole thing. It's got more mouthfeel than Grenache Blanc. So the Grenache Blanc is powerful and got that punch and flavor. This has it in the sort of mouthfeel of the whole thing, whereas the flavors are all wonderfully gentle and nice. And the reason I felt like this was Victoria to me is, and sort of two different expressions of the same, kind of the same thing, right? So the Grenache Blanc, it's got that punch in the flavor. And for Victoria, I was like, it's actually gentle. It's actually nice. But then when you interact with it, when you're actually swirling it around in your mouth and whatnot, there are still those rough edges. Like she has not figured, she's young. She hasn't figured herself. I mean, like, she was born a couple of years ago. She's technically very insanely young. She's still figuring things out herself, life, her own dealing with emotions. She's essentially a child when it comes to that, but she's having to evolve at like much faster than any child is ever forced to, or very few children are ever forced to, because of her situation of being a physical adult. And so the rough edges in the sort of physical rough edges of the orange wine matched her better, versus her flavors are actually like very nice. And I found that maybe having like a little, like a quarter glass or a half glass of each of these while you're reading issue number 3, I would go with that little bit of a flight. And I would start with the white. I would do the Victoria first and get the powerful flavors up front, then go for the rough edges in the mouthfeel with the orange wine. With those nicer flavors to kind of finish things out, especially because the second half of the book, you do follow a bit more of Victoria, like with her bathroom and what she's doing to reset herself. And I felt like that really matched what I was getting from the orange wine. So yeah, that's what I went with this time around.
Is the Gris there 2020 or 2021?
They are, let's see. The Gris is 23.
What?
Mm-hmm. Both 2023. They're brand new releases.
Interesting.
But yeah, so only probably a couple months on the skins, like weeks to months on the skins, not a long period of time. The color of both, like they're light colored for skin contact lines, so they only had a touch of it, but just enough to give it that little something that I feel like matches the personalities of the.
I see that. I still take umbrage with the flight, of course, but I will allow it yet again. I could see that. I could see that. Good choice. Yeah.
I want everyone to remember that this was the moment where Dallas realized that it was beyond 2023 and that time had passed. That was the what you all heard.
Now it is rare for 2023s are only just coming out, even for whites and whatnot. It takes, because you harvest them in the fall, and then it takes at least 6 months. So we're just into the 2023 zone. And to be fair, these two wines, I only have them on hand because I work there. They aren't releasing for another month to the public. So it is literally just time for 2023s. But in any event, they will be available very soon, everybody. We're releasing them in June.
Look them up. The Blending Lab, guys.
Look them up. Blending Lab. We're here in LA. If any of the rest of you are in LA, and if not, they will mail them to you if you want to buy some. And these will be on the site very soon. And Richard, when you're back in LA, we'll have to get you in there and give you some tasties. So, what are you drinking tonight, Richard?
What you got, Richard?
I'm back in LA in 1 week from today, so I'll see you soon.
There you go.
2, if you guys mail stuff out to the rest of the US, you should really think about for the new version of this show, since there can be pre-planning and stuff. Like, get the Blending Lab to sponsor it somehow, and like, then you choose the wine that pairs with this thing and send it out to Dallas and the guest. And like they can have their own wine they also recommend, but like give like that way everyone can talk about, like, because I'm sitting here. I love this part of the show because, like, you notice I went very quiet and looked very earnest for a long time because I'm learning something. I love that. If I could learn it while also tasting it, even better.
Yes.
Anyway, look.
Yes.
So
that's an evolution in the future for sure.
It's already in something like it will likely be attempted, if not tried. But we're going to launch the show, get some actual viewership or listenership, and actually get some numbers behind it. But the lab is always on the back of my mind these days because they are very game for these types of things.
I shouldn't have mentioned any of that on air. I should have just been like, I should throw this idea away. But I think that this is cool. It's my favorite part of the show.
That's kind of the.
Here's the thing.
That's kind of where we head. But go on. What you got?
I had a day today. Okay, so not to make a long story longer, but I'm in the bathroom at the mall. I went to the mall today to distract myself from the Kickstarter because I didn't want to be checking it every 30 seconds. And I'd done a lot of work, so I got up early. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go to the mall, and there's no good movies on because, like, I've seen literally everything that's out except If, and like, I can't imagine that the remake of If is going to handle the school shooting thing well. That's a great joke, and I'm proud of it. But I'm in the bathroom, and I'm at the urinal, and a man is at the urinal next to me, and he says to me, "Oh, do you mind? I can't go if there's someone else in here." And I'm like, then use a fucking stall. Like, this is a mall bathroom. So I finish and I leave, and I'm just thinking to myself, like, what is it about me that makes people feel like they can say this shit to me? Do these things happen to other people? People always like look at me as if like, well, why does? And I'm like, I think it's because I try to observe the world. I'm trying to like think about how people speak. I'm trying to always remember things from writing. But like this person, I am a shit magnet for the crazies. And so I'm in the wine store. So this is I'm just mood setting here. So I'm in the wine store. I'm thinking like this is going to be my final time on the show. It's my 5th time. I've got to really nail this. So I say, look, I've been thinking about this for days. I think this is a daytime moment. I want to figure out what wine Elizabeth is drinking. What does Elizabeth drink during the day? What are her rules? What is she? I think it's probably a Prosecco. She seems like that's what she thinks of him as an acceptable daytime wine.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm explaining the comic to the person at the wine store. I'm going deep into this. Like all that shit that I spouted off before about the man in the red being representative of the lipstick, that is shit that I've said out loud already today to a stranger who hasn't read the book. That's where I'm at emotionally. So I get through all of this, and this like young wine store employee thinks that he has an idea, and he goes off to get it. And while he's away, I glance over and I see the cheapest wine in the entire store. It's called Animus, and has a sloppy drawing of two
making
people.
You big. Hold on. Let me make you big.
Animus.
All right. Let me see this. Animus.
Wow. So the sloppy line drawing of two people sitting at a table, And the fact that it says it's vegan wine, which feels like an afterthought that the logo would point out to Victoria, as if it would be like, see, I understand you woke kids. And so then as this guy came back...
To be fair, vegan wine is not... You have to not use animal filters when you're making the wine is the big thing for vegan wine. But that's usually the only element that you have to do to make a wine vegan.
But the fact that it's on the label, like it's just the way that it's presented on the label in kind of bolder letters than anything else makes it really feel like it's making the point, in the way of like a grandparent pointing out. Like,
that's the only reason you want to buy this. So please note that it's vegan.
And you know, I'm in Canada where the average price, like the starting price for wine is $20, and this was 16. And this guy comes back and he starts telling me all about this $49 bottle of wine that he thinks would really suit the comic. And he has thoughts about X-Men, and I'm pretending to be interested. And I feel like such a complete asshole. So I'm like, absolutely, I'll get this one. And he hands me the wine, and I wait for him to leave, and I hide the bottle of wine he gave me and take the Animus to the counter and buy that. And I'm now trying to like parse whether or not it's going to seem like I shoplifted the wine, and they're going to find it later. Like I didn't know what else to do, because like this is perfect, and it just says Vino Verde. I don't fucking know anything about grapes. I really thought I was going to nail it this time, but I opened it for the thing, and it is a little bit bitter. It's a little bit fizzy. It hurts a tiny bit to drink. Like it hurts on the swallow. Yeah, but it's a good wine, and I'm enjoying it. And I think that I accidentally captured Elizabeth.
And as a Vino Verde, it's a Portuguese wine, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, perfect.
Yeah. And you said there's what's the carbonation? You said it's fizzy. How fizzy? Hold the glass up.
Just like a tiny bit, but this glass has been poured for a while. Like it's just
a little bit in the That just means they didn't like the fermentation kind of continued a little bit in the bottle, which means they bottled it really fast. Which is probably why it's cheap. They didn't hold it back for very long. So they didn't let the wine settle before bottling. Sometimes you do that on purpose because you want the bubbles, and that's like a pet nat or it's what in champagne and things like that. They literally let a secondary fermentation happen in the bottle. That's how you get all those bubbles. But when it's just a tiny bit of fizz like that, that was just they moved really fucking fast and didn't give a shit. But not enough to where it actually makes it fizzy. It's just that hint of fizz. So that's a piece of wine. And then, of course, Portuguese wine is like, it's still one of the most affordable.
Absolutely.
It's usually good bang for your buck, but not all of it. Not all of it.
Yeah.
Like I will say, I'm enjoying this wine. Like here to get an even decent wine, like a passable wine is $20-$25. Like, and this is a $16 wine that I'm very happy with and will drink again.
Exactly.
Good. There you go. That's what it's about.
Exactly.
Finding something
I was going to say, like, Portuguese wine is that rare thing, even here in the States, like it's always priced just that little bit lower than how good it actually is. However good that is. It might still not be that great, but it's like, it's
solid
still
value for dollar.
Paid for
Portuguese
it.
wines.
Yeah, it's always better than that. I'm glad that's true in Canada as well. Now look for those Portuguese deals. And so, out of curiosity, the wine that you weren't really paying attention, but were you paying enough attention to remember why the guy thought that wine would pair with your comic?
No, I was so all up in my guilt about my plan to ditch the wine at that point. Like it was everything he said was lost on me.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
Hey, I'm sure he's watching this. And he's going to go, that's the
guy. Oh, that would be hysterical. He's one of like the 24 people that will ever see this episode.
How long in the distance do I have to make X Files of Frankenstein 4 as a campaign to justify an emergency live stream so that you guys can have done all 4 of them?
That's a good question.
I don't. You know what? Just let us know when it's ready. If we come back on for one live stream now and again, I don't know who's going to still be.
Might happen.
We'll do it just to do it. I don't know who's going to be paying attention, but maybe some.
The live stream is fun for me, and you can still use it as a recorded episode later. But look, I finished all 4 of these July last year.
Okay.
So this is just I'll give you guys some time. I won't release it until at least July of this year.
All right. All right.
Okay.
I've got
Fair enough.
I've got 3 other.
Let us know. Let us know.
Yeah.
Well, and look, for the new podcast, whenever we have you on for that, we're doing there will be an edited, like, not much more than an hour ever. We're going to try and keep everything within like an hour and change, or slightly under an hour, right around there, as the official release to the public version. But there will forever be the full uncut episode for the paid subscribers to our thing. Generally going through the Substack is what we're doing it for now, but that uncut episode will always be available to those paid subscribers. We already have our first few, and we haven't even released an episode yet. And so always know that you can reveal, people will hear whatever you drop on those episodes, but only a curated few, and not like everybody won't be out.
Are you telling me we can try and break our record?
Oh God!
No, you give me something I can edit, for fuck's sake. Or we'll have a hard line where it's like, this hour and a half, which I'll edit down to close to an hour. That's kind of the end of the real show. And then sure, the uncut episode is, you want it to be like massive. Maybe that could be something that works, as long as we have that.
Unless it's we're just for shits and giggles. Sure.
Here's my pitch.
Sure.
Here's my pitch. We pair a wine with a movie that has a TV show that follows it. Okay, I don't know what this is. I don't have an idea in mind yet.
They were going to do that with Dark Tower, but they didn't in the ultimate.
Yeah. Okay, so something like that. We do the hour and a half version where we just talk about the movie, and then we go fucking deep on the TV show. Like obviously you can't burn through Buffy on something like this. But maybe like From Dawn Till Dusk. From Dusk Till Dawn. I imagine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
God, I even watched the first 2 seasons of that TV show. I think they did 3. I think total
3.
I've never seen a James Bond movie, but I will watch a James Bond movie if we could then do 6 to 9 hours on James Bond Jr., the popular hit animated series.
What? Okay, so
make a list, put it in an Excel sheet, and then shoot it to us.
And just so you know, the current plan for the TV side of things, what we think we're going to be doing with that is this will very quickly actually become a twice-a-week show, where there will be one, because we want to do episode by episode for TV. So we're pretty sure we already have our first season. We're going to do Severance season 1 as our first thing. Yeah. So, and we could have a guest on to talk about like an episode, or like the finale, or maybe the pilot, whatever it is. But we're going to do 1 episode a week. So that one's going to drop on like what our TV. There will always be 1 a week of TV covering an episode of something until we're done with that. Then we go on to the next thing. And then every week we have another, the main episode of non-TV, whatever the other thing is. The TV will be once a week, so we can cover things slowly but surely, and people aren't waiting 6 months to cover 8 episodes of something, which would be insane. So that, I think, is the plan for how we're going to cover TV.
Okay.
If you want to keep that.
But if it was a TV show that no one cared about, like James Bond Jr.,
we might just do a special one-off
series of series no one cares about.
We'll watch but we got to be able to watch the whole thing, right? So
that's all on YouTube. I watch it all the
time. Us. We've got to find time to watch it. So that'll be the big ask for that. But it might take us some time to actually watch it all through and take notes, and some at the very least, because otherwise we'll show up and just be like, well, how many episodes is it? Do you know? How many seasons?
Oh, it's like 1 season.
Sounds about right.
All right. But animated, so it's like 20 something episodes, right?
Yeah, it's James Bond's nephew, who's named James Bond Jr. At a private boarding school, but he sneaks out all the time to go on missions.
Okay. So young Sherlock Holmes, except as nephew rather than
when was this released?
Have you ever seen that movie, 70s? Young Sherlock Holmes?
Yeah, of course, yeah. It's like I think it's like 1987-ish.
Wow.
It's a Fred Wolf thing, but before Ninja Turtles.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not very good.
I never heard of it. I literally had never heard of it until just now.
I mean, The theme song alone is worth the price of admission.
Okay.
We could do Bots Master. The one about the guy who's on it's a world where like robots are really cool and popular, but this guy realizes that the Corp are making robots for evil, and so he like rebels. His name is Zip Zoolander, and
what?
I'm Zip Zoolander.
Never heard of this either.
I'm the Bots Master. Listen up, you all. You're the Boys Brigade. When it's laser time, put on your 3D shades. You came with 3D shades with the toys, so you can watch some parts in 3D.
Whoa.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, the future is vast. We are up for just about anything, really, truly. And I am hoping this show will expose us to lots of things that we've never seen, read, listened to before.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, I'm genuinely very excited to listen and watch and all of the things.
No.
But we've reached the point in the podcast where I'm talking about fucking Zip Zoolander and doing the rap from the theme song.
We have reached that point.
We have. So thank you.
The movie. I'm going to travel for 2 fucking hours to go to an abandoned shopping mall that only has a movie theater and a McDonald's left in it to see a Canadian film called Wild Goat Surf that I hope is good.
Oh, okay.
Well, enjoy.
Let us know if it is good, and maybe we can add that to the podcast. Wild Goat Surf. We'll capture the Canadian audience. I mean, that's a big audience.
Look, I feel like I need to say this out loud everywhere I can. For anyone watching and for the two of you, I saw the TV Glow just came out. It is like top 5 film of the year for me.
Oh, okay.
It's so fucking good. I saw it on Saturday, and it stuck with me in a way that's really chilled me to my core.
Interesting. All right, put that on the list.
Unrelated to anything else I've said, but just see that movie.
All right.
I saw the TV Glow. Okay.
All right. On the list.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of this. Yeah. Okay, cool. Noted. Cool. I saw the TV Glow, everyone. And Frankenstein, number 3, everyone. Go check that out on Kickstarter. I haven't backed this campaign yet. I'm actually on the add-ons list because I'm actually adding shit on this time around. So I got to go finish that. And actually I'm going to be one of the 50 backers, motherfucker.
That's right.
It's happening.
Yep,
so that is, I got to get physical for the first time. Let's get physical. Here we go. All right.
Hey, that was worse than my Zip Zoolander moment. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for listening to another one
guys.
of the final Wine and Comics pairing shows. I am Dave Baxter. This is Dallas Miller. This has been Richard Fairgray, our most common. What did we call you the last time? You were like the honorary co-host. I mean, for the most part, you were essentially a semi-regular co-host. So, but we are calling it a night.
I'll be listed as an executive producer when this ends up as an IMDb credit one day.
There you go.
There you go. Once we all make it big. All right, guys. And keep a lookout for Wine and ... which is the new podcast launching Thursday. The very first episode covers Speed Racer, the movie. We are going to be talking to Canadian filmmaker Justin Decloux, and he chose Speed Racer to talk about. We talk all about it and pair wines with it at the end. So take a look. That's going to be just audio podcast, but it will be on this YouTube channel as well. We'll be posting the audio there. So keep a lookout for it. We're very excited about it.
We are.
And all right. That's all for now. Signing off. We will catch you next time.
Night, guys.
2 more main live streams, and then a final live stream coming up in the next few weeks, and then we done. All right. Good night.
Night, people.